Let's go into some questions and answers now. I'm going to get an understanding of what we're talking about here, the basis. And Dr. Delmonico, you might tell me, how long does it you have when someone dies, whether they're killed or whether they just died? How long do you have before that organ is no longer transmittable to another person?
Depends on the organ. Depends on the organ, Mr. Chairman. So the heart is very sensitive. Once it arrests, it becomes complicated for you to be able to transplant it. The kidneys can last an hour without circulation and still be recovered and transplanted.
So it's 1 hour for kidney?
For kidneys, but that's why I'm saying to you it depends on the organ. So the heart is very sensitive. Once it arrests and has no circulation, it becomes complicated to make a successful transplant. But there's research that's being done now to do that. But in terms of China and what's been practiced, once the heart arrests, it becomes very difficult to transplant it. Unpredictable. The lungs can last for a couple of hours because there's oxygen retained within the lung even after circulation subsides. The liver can be no more than about 30 minutes without sufficient circulation, and it has to be transplanted, otherwise it won't function. So there's a sensitivity of each organ to ischemia or an absence of circulation that makes it different from one organ to another.
How about the
Yes, sir.
your cornea in your eyes?
The corneas can be, that's a tissue, and it's a different matter. It doesn't require circulation. It can be recovered many hours after the individual has died.
And how long will it last before it has
Last
to be
for some-
transplanted?
They can be preserved and transplanted days or months later.
And
the cornea.
but the other organs you were talking about have to be transplanted.
They have to be
within a matter
transplanted
of hours.
in some proximity. And now we are in a research way these days of preserving organs that could last for a couple of days, and done by placing these organs on a machine that can give the organs blood and oxygen or cold perfusate, and it enables them to last for hours and
Okay.
then a couple of days.
Does Dr. Delmonico's analysis, do you have any comment on it from the rest of the panel? Is that accurate?
In terms of the times, I mean, that's scientific evidence.
This has been a practice for 40 years.
Yeah, but my comment on it is that it shows that, well, except for corneas, there has to be a pretty quick turnaround between the death of a source and the transplantation. That we can't even have several hours. We're looking at minutes, 60 minutes, maybe 2 hours in the case of one type of organ. So and what we see in China is sometimes transplantations scheduled on demand of the patient, short waiting times, so that we do not have patients waiting for organs very often, but rather organs waiting for patients, which means, especially in the case of vital organs, that people are being killed for their organs.
Okay, so what we should be looking at then is not necessarily organs that are put into the icebox and flown somewhere, but instead should be looking to people who are being recruited throughout the Western world and other countries, but places where people have money, who are recruited to go to China and perhaps elsewhere.
Without question.
Okay, so that should be a major focus as to people who are in a state of need because their own organs are being going to hell and they're giving out. And we need to be able to make sure that when they are offered here, this is here how we can save you, is that we're not saving them by condemning a prisoner who might be in jail for saying something bad about the Communist Party of China.
Yes, I think all of us would agree with that statement completely.
Let me just note, I'm happy to hear this. I have been worried about this because there are transplant centers in Orange County, California, and I've been very concerned that that there might be some kind of organs being brought in from China. Now, is that a possibility that we?
No, that's not.
That's
I
not-
should say to you, if I may,
Sure.
I had the opportunity to oversee the practice of organ donation and transplantation in this country as the president of UNOS, the United Network for Organ Sharing, that runs the practice of transplantation in the country. Every transplant that is performed in the United States must be reported to the network, to the government, to the Department of Human Health and of Health and Human Services. So I can make some assurance to you from the system that is in the United States. Every transplant must be reported, and there would be no opportunity of bringing organs in from China to California for a successful transplantation. Were that to be known, the centers in Orange County would be closed down that
Let me,
night.
again, I'm not an expert on this, what about the organ of the skin? Can skin be sent?
So it's a
and
tissue.
transported?
So an organ is a vital structure that has blood supply, et cetera, right? But there are vital organs that require circulation for their maintenance and viability.
Right?
There are tissues such as skin and bone and cornea, right? Valves that do not need continuous circulation for their viability. So they can be preserved for an extended period of time, or they can be processed.
So the skin is not considered an organ. For some reason,
It's a
back
tissue,
in
yeah.
back in my
It's-
days,
it's under
when I
it's
got
under
a
the
D
cat-
in health in high school, I think.
That's okay, Mr. Chairman, that's fine. We don't know about legislation. I'll just say to you, it's categorized as a tissue.
Okay, and so,
but I
with
wonder-
us saying whether it's a tissue or an organ, are there cases, do we have cases where skin is being removed and being sold on a market by the Chinese government?
Yes, well, that's what the plastination is. We see these body exhibits, and there's some skin involved in them as well as vital organs. But I mean, whole bodies are plastinated, coming from China. And in our update, we talk about this plastination as similar fact evidence that. Many of these plastinated bodies, from our conclusions, come from Falun Gong practitioners, but it's the plastination occurs within China, and in the skin grafts or whatever, they occur within China. The exportation of particular organs, we don't, I mean, we've heard rumors about it, we haven't seen any evidence of it. I wanted to pick up on what...
Well, before we go on, okay. So we haven't seen the evidence of particular organs because it does require time and care, and it's quick. But have we seen evidence of skin transplants coming from China? The skin being transplanted, and the corneas.
I don't know. I mean, the BBC.
These other tissue type things.
The BBC comes out with a story of collagen based product, various makeup products that use tissue from executed prisoners. They come out with that story every 3 years. It's kind of regular.
The yes, what I wanted to say though is Dr. Delmonico had mentioned that there's compulsory reporting of all transplants within China, within the U.S.
Yeah, that's the fact is that people go to China,
and that's right.
specifically, and they are, and we have all the evidence in the world of people going there, actually perhaps as part of an organized business venture by someone who said, "Hey, we can get you organs and come on this tour and end up at this hospital, and then you've got your organ." And even they do not know, even they have no idea.
That's right.
That this is coming from an involuntary donor.
And that is not there's no compulsory reporting for that. Once you leave and come back, there's no compulsory reporting.
So maybe one thing that could be done that would have an impact is that people are coming back, Chris, from China who have had some kind of organ transplant operations, have to in some way show that they were in some way confident that this was not coming to them from an involuntary
Well,
contributor.
even just at the very start, at least they should be required to report, or the doctors, the hospitals be required to report that this travel occurred, and then there could be some investigation afterwards.
Yes, Doc, is there any reason why we shouldn't do that?
No, this is fine. We're in agreement on this one. If a patient goes to a foreign destination for transplant and they're coming back into the United States, that's going to require sophisticated care. Immunosuppression, the gamut of medications that have to be applied to make that organ transplant successful is sophisticated. So they're going to come home to a physician at one of our transplant centers that knows how to take care of those patients. So our people in the United States will know if they've gone to China or to India or to Pakistan or to any location that now is doing foreign patients for money. Okay, could even be Mexico.
Well, this is, I'll yield to Mr. Smith now. We will have a second round.